And now for news to chew and other helpful comments. A Honolulu woman opened up the egg muffin breakfast sandwich she was about to feed to her 2-year-old daughter to remove the sausage patty. She told me she liked to feed her daughter the egg, but not the sausage patty. And when she looked inside, she found an unexpected condiment, a wasp. There was a wasp in there. Fortunately, the wasp was dead and didn't sting anyone. Well, this is why I always open up my burger or my sandwich and I look inside just to make sure whenever I go out to eat. God, that's just amazing. And now here's some old news from November of 2005, which is very relevant to anyone who likes to fry their turkey in one of those turkey fryers. Listen to this. A group of construction workers who had just finished building a house decided to cook a turkey in a propane-powered turkey fryer. Their first mistake, they set it up in the garage. The fryer's thermostat was broken, unbeknownst to them, resulting in a boil-over of the oil. This burst into flames, catching the house on fire. And it burned the house, doing about $75,000 worth of damage. Luckily, the house was insured, and even more lucky, there was no one inside when this happened. My advice to you, if you like to fry a turkey in a turkey fryer, do it outside, away from the house. Don't do it anywhere near the house. You could very well burn your house down. And that's all the news that fits. Please visit my website, shighappens.com, for more show scheduling. And you can also go to youtube.com to view Shig Happens on the web. And don't forget, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. And now for some more holiday email. Kenny from La Honda, California writes to ask me if the bourbon that he puts into his fresh egg yolk, raw egg yolk, eggnog, will kill the salmonella. Well, geez, Kenny, that is a great question. But I think we're going to have to get some expert advice from microbiologist extraordinaire John Berstecki at Kapiolani Community College. So let's hola and go see him. Hi everyone, here we are in the microbiology lab at Kapiolani Community College to answer Kenny's question of how much bourbon does it take to kill the salmonella in the raw egg yolk eggnog. We're here, of course, with Professor John Berstecki, and today we have John's most excellent assistant, Brooks, to help us with this experiment. You know, it's estimated that 1 in 20,000 eggs have live salmonella in the egg yolk in the US. So it might be kind of risky to drink eggnog that hasn't been either cooked all the way through or that you bought pasteurized. So today we're going to run this experiment, and actually we're reading the results of the experiment today. John, you want to explain what we did?
Sure, I'd be happy to. But first, I want to know what this stuff is.
What
is this?
I found this on your cabinet.
Oh,
shelf.
my. Yeah, actually,
remember
I think
making that?
No, actually, I think this was one of my students' projects.
Oh, okay.
Looks lovely, but no, I wouldn't drink this. I think you'd have to chew it before you drank it. So anyway, Chef Henry did approach us about trying to test whether or not bourbon mixed with eggnog would kill any salmonella that might accidentally be in that eggnog. And so Brooks and I came up with a way to kind of test that question. And what we did initially is we took some eggnog and we seeded it with salmonella. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
We put some salmonella into the eggnog.
Yeah.
And then we proceeded to mix varying proportions of bourbon with that eggnog, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So what we have for you out here on the table, on the bench, are the results and a little prop to kind of show you exactly how we mix things together. In this first scenario here, what you see is 4 parts of eggnog and 1 part of bourbon, and that was mixed together. The eggnog, of course, had the salmonella in it. Now, Henry, this kind of proportion is what you would use if you were normally, drinking holiday eggnog,
Right,
right?
right. If you want to stay conscious through the night, 1 shot to 4 ounces of eggnog, that's good. You can have several of those drinks and still stay conscious. This is about what people would do.
So this is a reasonable kind of,
Right.
of scenario. So remember, the eggnog has salmonella in it. After we mix them and let them sit for a few minutes, because it does take a few minutes to kill any bacteria, we plated the stuff out, and as you can see, the bacteria still grew. That's these little white dots on this agar plate. Those are live bacteria.
Looks like more than dots.
Yeah. So this much bourbon with this much eggnog won't kill any salmonella.
Doesn't do it. Okay.
So we thought, well, what if we mix the bourbon and the eggnog at kind of equal concentrations? And so we took 1 part of bourbon, 1 part of eggnog. Again, the eggnog was seeded with salmonella. Mixed them together, let them sit for a few minutes, then plated them on the media. And you see, once again, the salmonella grew. So even at this concentration, bourbon will not kill eggnog, salmonella in the eggnog. And this really isn't what you'd normally use. I mean, that's a strong
maybe
eggnog.
my uncle would like it.
All right. Now the last thing, never to be deterred by these results, we thought, well, what if we really kind of blew the stuff away? Mixed 4 parts of bourbon with 1 part of eggnog. Now, seems like a waste of bourbon almost. And when we mixed those together, sure enough, at this proportion, the salmonella did not live.
So, oh my gosh. So basically what that is that's like a shot, a big fat shot, heavy shot of bourbon and just a tiny little splash of eggnog.
That's right. Right. Now, if you do this, you run into other problems. Brooks, why don't you show them what happens when you mix this much bourbon with that little bit of eggnog?
Put the bourbon in first.
All right, so we got your glass right there. Then you have your heavy shot, or what you call a big fat shot of bourbon.
Yeah, that's
And
just
then-
over an ounce.
And then you have your splash of eggnog. And that's your product right there. And this, you see if you mix it, kind of curdles.
Oh yeah, it's curdling.
So yeah, with that much alcohol and a little bit of eggnog, all the protein in the eggnog is going to curdle. So that's pretty disgusting.
Yeah,
Brother.
you kind of end up with bourbon eggnog cottage cheese.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you want to have. I mean, and how many of those drinks you think you can have in a night? It's not a good idea to drink that much bourbon. So anyway, the idea here is that you need to understand is that it appears that salmonella likes bourbon too. So my advice, if you're going to make your own eggnog, make sure it's a cooked recipe where you cook it up to at least 145 degrees and even better 155 degrees to kill all that salmonella. Or easier yet, go to the store and buy a pasteurized version of eggnog. You can get some really good ones in the store. Any other comments?
I think that's good advice, Henry.
Well then, how about we see how this tastes?
I think we're going to have to move off campus for that. So.
Okay, don't tell anybody. So it seems that salmonella really likes bourbon too. So my advice to you, Kenny, if you're making eggnog, cook it. Cook it to what? Temperature. 145 degrees, at least 145 degrees when you're making your fresh eggnog. And don't tell me you don't have your thermometer, Kenny. You should have one by now. And now it looks like we've got time for one more email. Rhea from Waikiki writes to ask, what is the safest way to prepare and serve my favorite Kwanzaa meal, chicken biscuit pot pie, when I'm getting my moja working? Well, I'm happy to help, Rhea. But I think first our audience needs to know what moja means. And I suspect they'd also like a little bit more information on what exactly is Kwanzaa.